So you're standing in a Levi's store, wall of raw denim stacked by fit and wash, a tailor shop humming in the back where someone's getting a hem taken up while they wait. And you think, I could run one of these. It feels like the safest bet in retail. 150 years of American history sewn into every back pocket, a logo people trust without needing to think about it, jeans that don't go out of style the way a sneaker drop does. You picture steady sales, repeat customers, a business that basically runs itself. That's the picture. Here's what the stitched leather patch on the back pocket doesn't show you. Levi Strauss & Company is publicly traded. You can actually buy stock in it this afternoon, but the Haas family, descendants of the founder's nephews, still controls the company through a dual-class share structure that hands them the majority of the voting power while owning a smaller slice of the actual economics. And the store you'd actually be signing up to run isn't independent at all. It's a franchise operating under rules written almost entirely in San Francisco's favor. So the real question isn't, how much does it cost to open a Levi's store? It's how much control does buying stock or buying a franchise actually hand you, and how much of it stays locked inside a family that's never let go. Here's the part that surprises most people first. Levi Strauss & Company went public on the New York Stock Exchange in March of 2019, ending decades as a privately held company. Anyone can buy shares today, ticker symbol LEVI, no velvet rope required. But the company issued two classes of stock when it listed, one for the public and one that stays almost entirely with the Haas family and related trusts, carrying 10 votes per share instead of one. The result is that public shareholders own a meaningful piece of the economics, the dividends, the stock price movement, but the family still controls somewhere in the range of the majority of the voting power, meaning strategy, leadership, and long-term direction remain a family decision, not a shareholder one. You can own a piece of the profits. You cannot outvote the Haas family on anything that matters. So when people say they want to own a Levi's, they're almost always describing one of three very different things. There's buying public stock, which gets you economic exposure and nothing resembling operational control. There's the Levi's franchise store, a formal license agreement to operate a branded retail location under strict corporate standards. And there's the department store shop-in-shop, a leased corner inside a larger retailer where Levi's controls the fixtures and the assortment, but someone else owns the building and the foot traffic. This script follows the franchise store path, the version closest to what people actually picture when they say they want to own a Levi's. Say you sign a franchise agreement to open a full-price Levi's store in a regional mall or a strong downtown corridor. Before you sell a single pair of jeans, the entry costs start compounding. The initial franchise fee, the price of the right to operate under the brand name in your territory, commonly runs $25,000 to $50,000, and that buys you permission, nothing else. Then comes the build-out. Levi's enforces a strict visual identity, reclaimed wood fixtures, exposed brick or brick-look paneling, the specific red tab signage lit exactly the way corporate specifies, a tailor shop area with sewing machines, and a fitting platform built to brand spec. A build-out meeting those standards for a mid-size mall location typically runs $300,000 to $600,000, depending on square footage and whether the landlord contributes a tenant improvement allowance. The lease itself adds another heavy line. Prime mall or high street space for an apparel brand of this tier commonly runs $40 to $70 per square foot annually, and a real Levi's store needs at least 2,000 to 3,000 square feet to properly display denim by fit, wash, and rise alongside jackets, shirts, and accessories. At $55 a square foot on 2,500 square feet, that's roughly $137,500 a year in base rent, before common area fees, and before the percentage of sales clause that kicks in once you cross a set revenue threshold. Opening inventory is the number that catches most new owners off guard. A franchise agreement typically requires a minimum seasonal buy directly from the parent company, no substitutions, no trimming the assortment down to your best sellers, and that opening order alone often runs $200,000 to $400,000 at wholesale cost. Add staffing, insurance, and point-of-sale systems tied into corporate inventory tracking, and total capital required before your first customer walks in typically lands between $600,000 and just over $1 million. Here's where the dream meets the invoice. A pair of classic 501 jeans might retail for $70. People assume a basic pair of jeans carries a comfortable markup. It does on paper. Standard apparel wholesale margins hand retailers roughly 50 to 55% gross margin off suggested retail, meaning the store bought that $70 pair for somewhere around $32 to $35. That looks healthy until you start subtracting what sits underneath it. Markdown obligation is the first bite, and it isn't optional the way it might be for an independent boutique. Franchise agreements typically dictate when seasonal sales happen and how deep the discount goes, usually 30 to 50% off by the end of a selling season, and the franchisee absorbs that margin loss directly, since carrying unsold denim past the mandated markdown window simply isn't allowed. Royalty and marketing fees are the second bite. Most franchise structures charge an ongoing royalty of roughly 5 to 8% of gross sales, plus a separate marketing fund contribution of another 2 to 4%, both calculated off the top line regardless of whether that particular month was profitable. Then there's the alterations program. Levi's flagship-style stores are expected to offer in-store tailoring, hemming, custom patches, personalization, a service that drives loyalty but requires a dedicated tailor on payroll and specialized equipment maintained to brand standard, a cost most franchisees underestimate before opening. Add credit card processing fees, add point-of-sale software licensing back to the parent company's system, add staff trained specifically on denim fit and wash terminology rather than generic retail selling, and that 50 to 55% gross margin is typically closer to 10 to 16% net by the time the store closes for the night. Here's the structural tension nobody mentions before you sign. What the store needs is a full, well-balanced denim assortment reflecting exactly what your specific customers buy, more of the fits and washes that move in your market, fewer of the ones that sit untouched on the shelf. What the brand delivers is a centrally curated seasonal collection, decided at headquarters months in advance, with limited room for a franchisee to adjust the mix to local demand. The owner who knows their customers' waist size and wash preference best often has the least power to actually buy for them. And when a franchise relationship shifts, it shifts for reasons entirely outside the store's control. Levi Strauss & Company answers to public shareholders every quarter, even with the Haas family holding the votes, and a soft earnings report can trigger a strategic pivot, tightened franchise terms, a renewed push toward direct-to-consumer and e-commerce that quietly deprioritizes physical franchise locations. A decision made to satisfy Wall Street that has nothing to do with how well any individual store is actually performing. So what are you actually buying when you open a Levi's franchise? Not equity in Levi Strauss & Company. That stock exists, but the votes that actually steer the company sit with a family trust, not with a mall franchisee. Not full control over what's on your own shelves, that's dictated months ahead by a design and merchandising team on the other side of the country. What you're buying is the right to operate inside a 150-year-old brand's equity, under their pricing rules, on their seasonal calendar, carrying their inventory risk, for a net margin that's a fraction of what the price tag on a pair of jeans suggests. The heritage is real. Nobody questions a pair of Levi's the way they might question an unfamiliar brand. But the economics underneath that trust are a tightly controlled franchise operation with a fixed royalty stream flowing back to San Francisco, and a public stock that lets you share in the profits without ever letting you near the wheel.